China's not going to stop buying US government debt, is it?
It seems to me pretty unlikely. I mean, it's always, when we think about the to and fro in this debate over the currency issue, it's worth remembering that this is China's policy, the dollar CNY peg, not America's policy. And China's kind of roped into having to do certain things to maintain that peg. One of them is to continue to recycle savings into US dollars. Treasuries are a pretty good return, given that you're in US dollars.
The problem is the US needs China probably more than China needs the US. Does that mean that the US has little influence on the currency policy?
I think that's a very good point. It's China's policy to change, and it's hard to see that America does have a sort of a trump card to push a change that I guess a lot in US politics would like to see happen. But I don't see that they have that trump card, so it seems to me we're in for more of the same.
When are we going to see a restart of currency reform in China then, Adrian?
I think that is on the cards, and I think this year what we see is probably in the second quarter, towards the end of the second quarter, I expect to see dollar CNY start to show a little bit of day-to-day movement. Small in the grand scheme of FX moves, if you like, if you think more broadly about FX markets, but movements nonetheless. And I think that continues. I think we do get a modest strengthening in the CNY, but I think against the dollar, but only of about 2% by year end. And I think then we start to get another phase to the reform process, if you like, and that is that China reverts more to looking at the currency on a trade-weighted basket. And it's worth remembering that the Eurozone is actually China's largest export destination now, bigger than the US. So it makes sense that China does focus on the euro currency as well as the dollar currency over time. But I think the game plan is very much evolutionary rather than revolutionary from China's perspective.
What about the threat of inflation within China, Adrian? I mean, if you let the currency appreciate, that dampens inflationary growth. Isn't that one way of tackling the threat of rising prices, which of course is something that is a rising spectre in the nation?
Yeah, very true, and that's one reason why I think they do just prompt a modest appreciation in the CNY into the second half of the year. But if you look at that inflationary data from China, there's a big contribution from food prices, a positive contribution, and similar to what we'd seen a couple of years ago. Take food out of the picture, and it's inflation pressures are rising, but still very, very modest. And I don't think there's much that a currency or a central bank, in fact, can do about food prices. That's very much an issue for supply side, and I think a medium-term challenge that China faces.
Adrian, thanks for joining us today.